mambo, fiesta, forever. Come on and sing along all night long.
What?
All night.
Don't mind me, I'm just having too much fun here. All right, 10:15 right back here, Heart of the Riverbend. We just talked about this. Requiem Church.
That's it.
See? Look
Nailed
at that.
it.
And I even spelt it right. Sometimes
it.
I botch that too. How are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Glad to be here.
That's fantastic. You guys just had a new location open up.
That's right. So for the past several months, we've been meeting over at the Bridge Church on
Right.
12th Street. And then just recently, last night, we had our grand opening over at Heartland Baptist Church. We got a space inside their larger space, so we don't need that much space. So they're letting us use some room in there, and it's just been fantastic.
That is so cool. Did you have a good turnout?
Yeah, it was good, man.
That's great. And so take us through just an overview for some of us that don't know about it. How you guys started Requiem Church, the process, and just kind of a little bit of maybe the elevator spiel before we get into the thick of the conversation today.
Absolutely. So for the last 10 years or so, my wife and my kids and I have been going to a church called August Gate down in Belleville, Illinois. And we at August Gate, we were just committed to the vision of saturating the Metro East region of St. Louis, all of St. Louis, but specifically focusing on the Metro East because that's where we were, with what we would consider to be gospel-centered missional churches.
Cool.
And so I was on the pastoral team there for the last 4 or 5 years that I was at August Gate, and I thought my role was going to be training up and sending out guys to go do that work as just part of our sending church. And then in 2020, some things started to shift, and it had nothing to do with COVID. It just happened to coincide. But around that time, felt like God was starting to lead me to really consider, like, maybe I'm going to be one of the people going instead of preparing and sending other people to go out. And so when we started having those conversations, it was pretty clear, pretty quick that this is something that we felt like was the right thing for us to pursue. And really from the very beginning, it was, we want to come to Alton just because I love it up here.
That's fantastic. And we were talking, I thought, I see so many of your posts that I just assumed, like, mentally I made a connection that you were a lifelonger here and all, but you're newer to the community.
That's right.
And I got to ask you right off the bat, because Alton Main Street's doing a great series called Choosing Alton about, why people came here. Why Alton?
Yeah, man. This is the first community that I have ever moved to on purpose.
Is it really?
Not force something else. It was, I got to choose where I wanted to be. This was it. And so I grew up in the country, like way out in the country up in northern Missouri, and then moved to St. Louis for school for a couple of years. And so I had the rural and the urban kind of background for, just kind of that
Those
context.
styles clash, man.
They do. And then we moved out to the Metro East, and I lived in Glen Carbon for the last 14 years. And so it was just the epitome of suburbs.
Right
and so
on.
I've had all of those kind of in the mix, and realized that none of them were really a direct fit. But one of the things that I love about this community is that it's just a convergence of all of those things.
Right.
Where we have that urban influence, especially downtown, where the beginning of the suburbs from the Metro East, and then like everything north and west of us here is all rural kind of farmland. And so I love just how it all kind of comes together, and I feel like I can kind of really just traverse all of those things, and I just like the feel of the community.
I love the answer. That's great. And it's so great to have an organization like yours here because, I mean, you're providing a great escape, spiritually, mentally, helping, people that of any background really come together for a greater good, for a greater cause. Take us through the kind of, I hate using this. I'm a pro wrestler, so my vocabulary goes back to pro wrestling, and I always say storyline, but it's technically it is, but it's not. Tell us your journey. So how did this start? Were there any changes along the way? Was this the initial concept that you had?
So from the very beginning, one of the things that we have been committed to coming out of our sending church, August Gate, one of the things that we developed there as I was part of that pastoral team there, as we really built out what we meant when we were saying, so what Jesus tells his followers to do is be disciples who make disciples.
Right.
And so that was the way we framed it at August Gate. Like, that's the mission that's what we're about, right? And what we started to realize as we started having conversations about that was that word isn't used very often, right? And it's common in Christian circles, but nobody really knows what a disciple is nowadays. We don't talk in those terms. And so what we were realizing was that a lot of people have very different understandings of what that means. And so we started to define that and really drill down into what that means. And so what we really came down to was that being a disciple or making disciples, it means growing to know, love, and follow Jesus together by his grace. And so that's the mission of the church. That's just what Jesus calls all of his followers to do. And so what we decided when we were going to be planting out of August Gate is we want to be a part of continuing to take that movement mindset forwards where we come with the same mission, but we frame the vision different. We frame what it is we're really like pursuing. So that's what we think God's asking us to do. And then we just gonna say there's distinctives in what we're asking God to do as we seek to be faithful to that.
So I'm on RequiemChurch.com. This is great. I mean, this your website is just fantastic.
Thanks.
Everything's on here. I got to ask you real quick about the opportunities that you guys have for people to listen online and listen to some. Do you podcast on this?
We that's in process. We're trying to get the podcast set up. We do have them all available through our app. So we have an app in the App Store on all the major platforms. So the Requiem Church app is up and running. That's available. So all the sermons are available there. Our worship leader Brett Love and his wife Meg are amazing musicians. They're in process of recording some of our original stuff. So goal is to have a lot of original music coming out as well.
That's fantastic, man. I mean, this is so cool. And I'm looking through and just seeing some of the things you guys do on here and some of the services you provide. Take us through some of the individuals that come. It doesn't seem like there's you guys serve all demographics, all walks of life. Do you guys have almost like a melting pot for your guys' service in terms of, people showing up and...
Right. So what we've really from the very beginning, we've framed what we would call our target audience as blue collar creatives.
Okay.
Because
interesting.
Specifically because I believe that's the primary growing demographic in Alton that the church is almost completely unable to engage or unwilling to engage a lot of times.
Yeah.
And so,
great point.
But when I say that, I don't just mean hardworking artists or not so hardworking artists sometimes, but I mean the people who are hardworking visionaries.
Yeah.
So that creative goes beyond just what you might think of as the visual arts or even just the musical arts. I'm talking about the visionaries who see something that they think could be, and they're going to work hard to go after that.
Right.
And so that's what I love about this community is that I see people drawn here who are drawn to the beauty, they're drawn to the history, they love what's here, but they aren't afraid of the mess when they get here.
Yeah.
Because it's clearly both, right? We're clearly a broken, beautiful place. And both of those are just they're a paired reality that you've got to be able to engage both sides.
Absolutely. And I got to ask you from the start, when did you start the organization?
It was, I guess, officially in April of this past year.
So take us through the last year, we'll just say. From start to finish, what's been the journey for you in terms of, just some of the people you met? Have there been any stories where, right away you're going, you know what, I made the right call doing this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what was one story that really stands out and comes to mind as you asked that is I had a potential partner coming in, like, we're connected with a much larger organization called Send Network, which is kind of under the umbrella of the Southern Baptist Convention.
Okay, gotcha.
So when people say that, I want to say we're Southern Baptist, but not like that. You know what I mean? So because everybody's got an idea of what that means, and so we'll talk about Send Network more than we'll talk about the SBC because we've got a lot of crazy uncles.
I'm nodding. That is fantastic. Oh my God, I love it. Okay,
yeah, but
keep going.
Yeah. So yeah, we're a part of Send Network, and that gives us connection though to an amazing large family of support and people wanting to help us do what we're doing. And so people will come in and they'll want to be a part and they'll want to tour the city and get to know not only Alton but St. Louis area and just kind of see what it's about. So we've got partners coming up from Alabama and from Kentucky and from other states even farther away and wanting to be a part of what we're doing. So I was in with a partner over at Germania and we were talking. I was just explaining this blue collar creative, this kind of demographic, and he was like, so a guy came through and he just caught him, one of the baristas, and it was a guy that I had not met yet. It was still pretty early on in our time here, and my buddy started asking him some questions, and he said, "Yeah, I used to be involved with the church, but I'm not anymore. I love Jesus, but I'm not connected with the church." And that's been the most common story that of
that's
the people
what
that
I was going to ask you. Is that the story? Because to me, I meet so many people that say that. No, I believe in a higher power, but I don't believe in the organization.
Yeah, and that's a common thing, and that's not just here. That's everywhere, right? That's just culturally where we are right now. As people have tried to separate the church from God and from Jesus and from Scripture, and they say I can do this on my own. I don't need all this junk that's associated with.
And it doesn't matter what branch of religion it is. It fits all categories. It seems like.
Yeah, that's a pretty common thing across the board for sure. But as he started asking questions, he's like, "Yeah, I'm working here, but what I really love is my video arts that I'm doing. And so he was just the poster child of what I was describing to my friend who was here with us. And so that's just been a conversation after conversation.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Great guy.
Oh yeah.
Great guy.
Oh yeah.
That's fantastic. So has that been the biggest help for you, do you think, is being connected and going into these places like you just mentioned, Germania, who great community advocates and really looking to develop this community? Has that been a big help for you, is just kind of meeting with people like that in those places and settings and kind of just spreading your word and spreading the mission that you guys have?
Yeah, I mean, everything happening at Alton Main Street has been huge for us.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Sarah McGibney's been a huge gift for us as far as some connections and some networking there, being connected with Germania and Ben Brynildson and just that family and those connections, getting to know him and getting to know Joe Groppel, who's the store manager down at Germania, down here downtown. Some of those connections have been fantastic, and also just the community there that it allows us to press in and really be a part of a much broader community much more quickly than we would have been able to otherwise.
So if somebody's walking into your church for the first time or coming to a service of yours, what can they expect?
Yeah, so what they can expect is casual environment, high value on reverence. So something that we are extremely high on is we want people to come in and invite them into an experience of God. Right. Because when we're gathering for our worship gathering, which is Wednesdays at 6:30, we kind of flipped the normal rhythm. We're not on Sunday mornings. We do Wednesday nights. And
I like that.
When you're coming in for a worship gathering, what we want is we don't want it primarily to be horizontal. We want this to be a vertical experience. We want you to come in and experience God together. So they're probably a pretty distinctive, noticeable lack of things like we're not going to do announcements. We're not going to have this greeting time where we make everybody pretend to like each other. We're not going to have this time.
But
where
I want to know when we're making cookies. You know, when's the bake sale?
Then pay attention to everything else we do, because everybody's connected in every other way.
That is so cool.
And so we want this to be where you come and connect with God and facilitate that for people.
Right.
And we really want to keep that at the forefront and really at the core of what we're doing.
That's fantastic. And what's your plans going forward? We have a couple of minutes left. This has been a great, and by the way, you're welcome back anytime. This is great. You guys, you are just doing great stuff. But what's the plan going forward? I mean, do you guys, in your mind, are you looking at, 5 years down the line, 2 years down the line, or taking it day by day?
You know what? It's so hard to predict where things are going to go and who we're going to get connected with.
Especially in this world, you know?
Oh, man. I know. And so, I mean, if everybody came who said, hey, if there was a church like that, I'd check it out, or I'm going to be there. If all those people came, we wouldn't fit in the space we're at right now. But that's just not the way the world works. I feel like a lot of times culturally where we are, people are more afraid to say no and tell you to your face that I'm not really interested in that. And they're more likely to say, yeah, I'll be there, and then just not show up. And so it's so hard to predict. But I mean, our vision really is to help suffering people find rest in a strong and beautiful God. That's the way we frame it, because we believe those are really the key pieces that are going to help us engage and identify with anybody wherever they're at, and then invite them into the rest that Christ offers, the believing and living like he really meant it on the cross when he said, it's finished. And this is true for you and just as true as it is for me. And so it gives us this connection with people, and it really is dependent on who we're able to connect with at that point of brokenness of relationship, in particular with God and with people, and then how do we connect with them and help them get connected to Christ.
That's fantastic. And I think the best way for me to wrap this up would be kind of, asking you how your spiritual journey started, because it seems like you're really in tune with that with that segue of life. Were you a part of an organization, a church organization beforehand, like a certain branch? Were you feeling this way, and is that why you kind of started this? What led up to this point is very interesting.
Yeah, so I grew up in the church.
Okay,
but my understanding of God was always very, very skewed towards I need to earn God's favor. I need to earn God's love. I always thought that in those terms.
Right.
And I think that's the general approach before you really understand there's so much more available to you in specifically in the Bible, specifically in the gospel. And so I always thought I've got to work hard and then God will love me.
Got you.
And then when I got to college, I got connected with some campus ministries there where I'm in my school, Truman State University up in Kirksville, where I'm from. And started to understand like the gospel's a little bit bigger than I thought, but still was thinking in that works based. I got to earn this.
Yeah.
And so I was a philosophy major, graduated with a degree in philosophy. And then I met a friend of mine named Brian, who was the first person to really help me start to see that the essence of the gospel is that God knows us fully and he loves us anyway.
Gotcha.
And that just started to revolutionize my relationship with God and what I understood about who He really was and what He was inviting me into. It wasn't about me trying to earn anything or prove anything. It was about God giving me everything in Jesus and me resting in that reality. And so that's why that rest component is so key for me. And that's why it's such an important thing for me to always be telling people that we're not inviting you to do anything for God. We're inviting you to come and experience what He's done for you. Yeah.
That is incredible. I mean, seriously, I'm glad I asked that question. I only ask one good one in an interview, guys. You should know that by now. If more people want to learn about your mission, ways that they can be a part of attending services, what's the best way to reach out? What's the best way to contact you and follow along?
Yeah, so RequiemChurch.com. We're also on Facebook and pretty active on there. I can give phone numbers. I mean, if you want.
Yeah, give your phone number out.
My
Might as
cell
well.
phone is 314-341-0211.
It works.
And
I called yesterday. He
that's
called
right.
me right back.
So I promise it's a real number. That's right. And it's a 314 number because I got it when I was in St. Louis when we were there for school. So
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much. You're welcome back anytime.
That's awesome, man.
And really just keep up the great work. And thank you for all you do for our community. And stay a while, please.
yes, sir. That's the plan.
10:31 coming back with Mark Mago's Trigger Talent right after this on this 5th day of January in the heart of the River Bend. That's downtown Alton.